If you want to understand weddings, don't start with romance, start with the bill. Because in the US, the average wedding now lands in the mid $30,000 range. And that's just the average. In a lot of cities, it goes way higher. So today, we're breaking down the economics of weddings, why they cost so much, who profits, and how one day can turn into one of the biggest purchases a couple ever makes. And here's the crazy part. The wedding industry doesn't just sell a service. It sells emotion at scale. That's the business. That's the move. And once you see it, weddings stop looking like just a celebration and start looking like a financial system with flowers on it. Let's get into it. Weddings are not normal transactions. They're loaded with emotion, time pressure, family pressure, and social pressure. In economics, that creates something called inelastic demand. Translation: when people really want something, they're less sensitive to price. And weddings are one of the best examples of that. Nobody plans a wedding saying, let's make this the cheapest important day of our life. They say, we want it to feel perfect. And that word, perfect, is where budgets go to die. Because once the emotional stakes go up, the price tolerance goes up too. Venues know it. Caterers know it. Florists know it, Even the people renting you chairs know it. At that point, you're not just buying a product, you're buying peace of mind. And peace of mind is expensive. Now let's talk about where the money actually goes. The two biggest categories are usually the venue and catering, and together they can eat up a massive chunk of the budget. The average venue cost in the US is often estimated in the high 4 figures to low 5 figures, depending on the source, city, and season. And that venue price is not just about the room. You're paying for the date, the location, the setup, the cleanup, the staffing, the coordination. Basically, you're not renting a space. You're renting convenience with a chandelier. And that convenience has a premium. Why? Because wedding venues are built on scarcity. There are only so many Saturdays, only so many spring weekends, only so many places that look good in photos and don't require you to move 50 folding chairs by hand. That means supply is limited and demand is huge. Basic economics. If everybody wants the same date, the same venue, and the same golden hour photos, prices are going to rise. That's not a scam. That's the market. Now let's talk food. Catering is one of the easiest ways a wedding budget starts acting like it has no supervision. And the reason is simple. Catering is usually priced per person. So every extra guest is not just one more body in a chair. It's another meal, another drink, another napkin, another plate, another fork, another reason the budget starts sweating. This is why the guest list can become the most expensive family document ever created. Because when somebody says just invite a few more people, what they really mean is, please add several $1,000s to the bill and call it love. That's wedding math, and wedding math is not friendly. Now let's talk about the dress. The average wedding dress in the US is usually in the low thousands, though the final price can swing a lot depending on designer, alterations, and how deep you want to go into the fantasy. And this is one of the clearest examples of emotional spending, because the dress is not just a dress, it's symbolism, it's photos, it's the moment, it's the thing people will remember forever and bring up in family conversations for the next decade. From an economic standpoint, the dress is a strange purchase. It has huge emotional value but limited practical value after the wedding. That doesn't mean it's not worth buying. It just means the price is being driven more by meaning than utility. And that's a huge part of wedding economics. People are not making rational purchases in the same way they would for a couch or a laptop. They're buying memories, identity, and social meaning. That's why spending can get out of hand so fast. Now let's talk about photography and videography. This is one of the few categories where spending more often makes a lot of sense, because this is the part that lasts. Photography and videography often cost several $1,000s, depending on coverage, experience, and location. And unlike the cake, the flowers, or the open bar, this is the part you still have years later. The cake gets eaten, the flowers die, the champagne disappears, the dance floor becomes a liability. But the photos and video can stay in your life for decades. So while it hurts to write that check, this is one area where the economics are actually pretty defensible. Now here's where the psychology gets interesting. A huge part of wedding pricing is anchoring. That's when the first number you see changes what feels normal. So if you walk into a venue and the first package is $50,000, suddenly $28,000 feels like a deal, even though your bank account may not agree. That's how pricing psychology works. Then there's social proof. You scroll through Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest, and all you see are these perfectly styled weddings with candle walls, champagne towers, and floral arrangements that probably cost more than your first car. And suddenly, that's the standard. But it's not the standard. It's the highlight reel. Social media shows the edited version, not the budgeting panic, the family arguments, or the moment somebody realizes the bar tab is going to require a second mortgage. That visibility raises expectations, and higher expectations usually mean higher spending. Now let's talk about the bigger stakes. A wedding is one day. Marriage is a long-term financial partnership. That means every dollar spent on the wedding is a dollar not spent somewhere else. Savings, investing, debt payoff, a home, emergency funds, or just starting married life with a little less pressure. And that trade-off matters, because one of the biggest hidden costs of an expensive wedding is not the event itself, it's the financial stress that can follow it. Money is already one of the most common sources of conflict in relationships. So if a couple starts married life with wedding debt, they may be borrowing stress from their future. That's why this topic matters more than people think. The wedding is supposed to celebrate the relationship, but if the spending creates strain, the celebration can quietly become the first major test. And there is research that backs up the idea that bigger spending does not equal better marriage outcomes. A well-known Emory University study found that higher wedding spending was associated with a higher risk of divorce, while lower spending was associated with longer marriage duration in parts of the sample. That does not mean cheap weddings are magic. It does not mean expensive weddings ruin marriages. It means that more spending did not translate into better long-term outcomes in that study. Correlation, not causation. That distinction matters, because a bigger party is not the same thing as a stronger relationship. And that's the part people miss when they get caught in the wedding hype. The wedding industry is very good at making upgrades feel essential. A bigger floral install, a fancier venue, a custom cocktail hour, a premium DJ package, a lighting upgrade that somehow sounds like it should come with a utility bill. Most of these things are optional. Not bad, just optional. And once couples forget that, the budget starts climbing fast. That's how a normal wedding becomes a, how did this get so expensive? Wedding. And the answer is usually not one giant bad decision. It's 50 small ones that all sounded reasonable in the moment. That's the real trap. So what's the smarter move? It's not necessarily a tiny wedding. It's a wedding that actually matches your priorities. A weekday wedding can be cheaper than a Saturday one. An off-season date can reduce costs. A smaller guest list can save thousands. And being selective about where you spend can keep the whole event from turning into a financial emergency with flowers on top. Because that's the economics of ownership. Own the decision. Don't just absorb the pressure. If you want a luxury wedding and you can afford it, great. If you want a smaller event and you'd rather put the money toward a house or investments, also great. The mistake is not spending money. The mistake is spending blindly because the industry made it feel normal. So here's the real question. Are you buying the wedding you actually want, or the one you feel like you're supposed to buy? Because those are two very different things. And once you understand the economics, the whole conversation changes. A wedding is a one-day event. Marriage is the long game. The smartest couples understand both. That's why the best wedding is not the most expensive one. It's the one that gives you great memories without wrecking your financial future. That might not sound as flashy as a six-figure floral wall, but it's a lot easier to enjoy your honeymoon when you're not mentally calculating interest payments. So yes, weddings are beautiful, they're emotional, they're meaningful, and they're also one of the clearest examples of how scarcity, emotion, and social pressure can turn a normal celebration into a premium-priced experience. That's not a scam. That's economics. So before you say yes to the venue, the dress, the guest list, and the small upgrades that somehow added $10,000, ask yourself one thing. Is this the wedding I want, or just the wedding I was sold? Because that answer can change everything. See you in the next one.